I guess I have two questions. Can you talk a little bit more about what it was like collaborating with those guys, like with David Gilmour and like what were
Well,
the
it was
recording
more or
sessions
less.
like?
Yeah, I mean, again, I didn't write the songs. The songs were written whenever I did anything. I played on them, right? So it wasn't that, but it was interesting because in the studio they were, they wanted to try to capture the moment, right? And Bob Ezrin, who was the producer, who
Yep.
actually became my partner in my company's Seventh Level that I did the interactive cart, I did the world's first interactive cartoon with. He
Right.
was part of that company when we took that company public. That's how I met Bob, and we hit it off. He's one of the truly, truly, truly great producers I've ever met in my entire life. I mean, I followed him around like a puppy dog so with Pink Floyd, because producing is what I love to do, and that's like those events I just did. We produced those events, and I just love that concept. So I learned a ton from Bob. But it's really, for me, it was more. I love business, and I loved the business of Pink Floyd, to see how it was put together. Because I mean, it was like a giant circus moving around. There was 150 people or something moving around in that crew, with all the people setting up multiple stages, giant steel, tons of, I mean, a whole bunch of semi trucks moving that around and having to make that work. So I was really fascinated with the production side of it and the people that ran it, and what they did, and learning from them. And Gilmour, I mean, I'll never forget, our rehearsals were in Toronto, and I remember flying to Toronto, but they were out on at the Toronto Airport, International Airport, in an airplane hangar, and they used to have to shuttle us out between 47s in the little trams to get us out to where the stage, where we were in this thing. And I remember going in there, and I'm seeing flying pigs and beds, and this massive lighting systems, just insane amount of
Yeah.
stuff. And one of the lessons Gilmour said, you make it grand and they will come. And that's what they did. I mean, quad sound. And I'd never imagined anything like that, seeing myself sitting there. And I realized at that moment, hey, I'm in the game right now. I get to be in the game with these guys. And it was just an incredible experience to watch how smooth and how well oiled of a machine to move this giant production around the world. And so it was really a learning experience in production, in the power of teams. The key to building businesses, to find people that can self-start and make things happen, solve problems. They had it totally down, and it was just an incredible time.
Um, wow, that's an airplane hangar. I never heard that before. Like
Oh
that's
yeah.
crazy. Did you guys set up like all the speakers in there? Like you had all the amps
Oh
going?
yeah, that's it. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times that's where they're, for years, that's where they, when a tour is getting ready to go out, they'll use airplane hangars, because they're big enough that they can set up all the lights, the
Yeah.
trussing, the staging, because you have to get it all set up. Because part of this whole game is, once it's set up, you got to figure out how to pack it, right? To keep it. How do I pack this whole thing up and put it in the truck? It's like a giant Legos set, because each truck everything has to go in precisely and come out precisely every time. So it's a whole process of setting up the stage, knowing, because don't forget, not all the stadiums or all the venues are the same size. So they've got to be figured out, because sometimes there's places you can't get the trucks under, because the bridges weren't big enough when they were built, especially when you're dealing in cities around the world, where they weren't really set up. These little coliseums and things weren't set up for giant semi trucks to bring the stuff in. So it's a very complex task. And yeah, it was interesting. We would see the crew would start a stopwatch when the thing would start, to set it up, and they would start a stopwatch the second the show was over to tear it down, and they would keep trying to whittle those times down.
Mhm.
And like I said, the trucks come in a certain way, the first piece of gear goes on, it's like all designed to just pack perfectly and come in and out. So it's a crazy thing to watch that giant thing be moved around, and how they have to deal with the obstacles and stuff about getting things in and out where there's not designed, for semi trucks to be bringing in giant staging and stuff. So yeah, it's crazy cool.
So I wanted to talk more about your performances and your tours and stuff like that. I was on YouTube. I was doing research last night, and I watched "Delicate Sound of Thunder." And I don't know if you remember. I'm sure you remember that performance.
Oh,
I
of
don't.
course. I mean, yeah, that's that was one of the big live performances we did with Pink Floyd. Yeah, so Delicate Sound of Thunder. Yeah, absolutely. Remember it very well. I,
You're
I haven't seen it much, but
right,
I
but you were
have
there.
that. It's so funny. I don't really like to watch myself much. It's like funny, all these things like this interview. I don't watch this stuff because it's hard to watch
Yeah,
sometimes.
no,
It's just
I
funny.
agree. So what is it like? Like, I mean, you're playing all these songs that are like
Mhm.
pretty much already. I mean, you're playing new songs, but you're also playing like these classic songs.
Right.
Like, what is that like playing, like, adapting that and then putting on a show in front of millions of people? Like, what is that like to perform like that?
Well, it's kind of it's a very interesting, people ask that all the time. Listen, it's wonderful when you walk out in a stadium, the place is full and people are looking down at you, all of that. But what's actually fascinating is some of the most fun gigs that I had with Pink Floyd were ones we basically used to play gigs after our gigs in clubs, but we wouldn't play any Pink Floyd songs. We'd go in and play R&B and rock and roll and stuff. And we called the band the Fishermans, with a Z on the end. So the Fishermans we'd be playing a club right after we did our show at the stadium. The promoter would set it up and they wouldn't tell anybody that it was Pink Floyd. And we would go into these little clubs and we would play gigs. And those were so fun because once the word got it, they'd be jammed to the rafters. And there's just something about somebody being, 10 feet away from you and playing to them where you feel the energy of the audience. Now, a lot of times in these stadiums, they have a big barrier in front. So there's
Right.
this thing that they keep the people out, and there's the people, the first row. And then when you look out, you see people, they're like little tiny specks across the back of the stadium. So, and we're spread out kind of far to fill the stage. So it feels a little bit impersonal. Like it doesn't have the same vibe of like, getting up there and honking the girls with your horn in the front row. Right. But I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not putting that down because it is an
Right.
extraordinary experience. But, what I would do is I would end up finding some people in the front row so that I could kind of look at them and we kind of have some kind of a thing to play. But yeah, it's very interesting. One of the things that I remember the most about playing in those stadiums is when we used to do Us and Them.
Yeah.
I would come out and they had this big powerful light behind me, right, that they could flip on, that would shoot these beams because it would hit me from behind, right, and his beams. And I always thought it was so funny because when I'd look against the back of the stadium or the venue where we were at, when you do this in front of a light, you can make
Shadows.
birds
Yeah.
and make that stuff. I would see my silhouette giant against the back of the stadium,
Holy
right?
shit.
And I should actually play. So I would like start playing with my saxophone like this and start making these
Oh my
shapes in the back.
God.
Nobody would see it because everybody's looking at me, but I would be the only one looking at that. And I always thought that was so funny to look at that and see and see this giant one of these with my saxophone and stuff. It was fun. So that was a great experience. But yeah, no, I mean, there's no question. It's pretty thrilling when you hear, yes, 75 to 100,000 people out there just screaming and standing up and, yelling. It's pretty exhilarating. No question.
Now, I feel like, this might like, I'm not just saying this either, but the performance that you did in 1989 and the performance that you did last week, like
Mhm.
you didn't miss a note or anything on, or at least that I didn't notice on any of your songs, but like you've been, it's been like 20-25 years that you've been doing this. How do you, I mean, other than practice, like how are you still so sharp at your music playing? Like how do you maintain that?
Well, again, playing music is for me is actually an opportunity to get closer to God, right? And what I mean by that is it's
Wow.
connecting with the source. That's the whole piece. It's one thing to play intellectually through your head. It's another thing to drop thinking and be able to kind of soar over the stuff. So for me, it's an exercise in stopping thought, and then just sort of connecting with the source. Consciousness is my favorite subject on the planet. I mean, there's nothing else that matters to me more than that. You know, you blink, you're 50, you blink, you're on your deathbed. It's all time's a complete illusion. And it's really about learning to die before you die, right? It's basically,
Right.
there's a whole process. So I realized through music is an opportunity for me to connect with that source, because when you're playing and you're really connected, you're not in your mind, you're not thinking, there's no problems at that moment, there's no things that you're making up in your head. You're basically getting to connect with something that is so profound. And so for me, I realized, because I went through periods of time when I started my companies and where I was not playing much because I was so busy working on my business and, you know, emails and, you know, organizing and
Right.
all the things, spreadsheets, and having to deal with all that stuff, that I realized that I started missing that connectivity to what I was doing. So I really started flipping it around, where I realized that playing was so critical to making me feel good, and it made my business better, because the better I felt about my playing, the better I felt about my business. I didn't really realize how important that was. So I went through a period, and then I decided, you know, probably about 6 years ago, that, you know, I really wanted to get back into playing more. So that's why I started Think Experience, and the idea of being able to play and produce at the sort of the same time. And that's when I put the band together. So I have Think Experience, then I have Think X, the band. I have Think NFT, my NFT business. And so it's all around that brand right now. And playing is it's just a big part of it for me. So you know, and I played those songs a lot, obvious, for years. And I try to be true to what I did. I try to put a nod to the early Floyd parts of it, and then the pieces that I added, and kind of make it the same. But, you know, again, playing is just extraordinary fun. And, you know, playing with this band, you know, Stephen Perkins is one of my favorite all-time musical drummers. So to get up and play with him and connect is great. Kenny Olson, I mean, what a monster guitar player, right? I mean, if you got to fill Gilmore's shoes, Kenny's like a great guy to do that, because it's that same sense of soul and time and feeling, and it really comes from someplace. And you know, so it's always an honor to play. And now I realize music is just, you know, it's part of who I am, and it's such a gift to be a musician, because it does allow us to connect with the source, you know, whatever you want to call it, God, the source, nature, whatever name you want to give it, that's up to you. But it is a spiritual experience for me. So that's why I keep doing it. Right.
Wow. All right. Like, one of the biggest fears that I have as a writer is critics. And I wanted to ask you, do you care about what critics say, and how do you deal with that, whether or not you care or not?
Oh yeah, I mean, listen, there's people that go, oh, I hate that guy, the way the guy plays the saxophone in Floyd. Because he's not traditional. It's not, you know, it's not the old school. I want, like I said, I wear my own clothes, and that's what I love about Floyd. They didn't say, hey, do this, do that. I mean, I laugh. It's just like, I came on and kind of point to me, and I make up my parts, and that was it. And I love that from Gilmore. He didn't like try to say, hey, do it this way, we want you to be something that you're not. They always encourage just, hey, be yourself and make stuff happen. What was the question again? You asked me, what was it? I forgot it.
Critics, do you care?
Oh, critics. Yeah. I mean, of course, you always care about people saying stuff, whether they're, you know, you want to be looked at and viewed well, right? And I mean, there's just it, but, you know, it is, you know, I always say, you know, thou shalt not put thy word in the face of the critic, for how is his record doing? Right. So it's like, you know, it's like, it's one thing. And again, we're all critics. We all find things that we like and we don't like. I just, you know, again, it's for me, it's the honesty. It's when people are doing things, when you can see it in their eyes, and they're doing it to try to be cool, as opposed to just doing what they do and it is cool. So, you know, of course, nobody likes to be taken down. It's not fun, but you know, I mean, it happens, and I don't really let it bother me that much. And, you know, luckily I haven't been too beat up through my career, where it's been like some people I've seen that have just been bashed, and it's just really
Right.
not fair, right? Because of somebody that doesn't understand things quite the same way. But, you know, it's good. It's character building too, right? It's like, that's an opportunity to take a spiritual path in that, because you know, I live in this space of forgiveness, man. And my whole thing is forgive, for they know not what they do. People don't understand when they're identified with thinking, and they don't realize that the only thing that's real is you and me talking right now.
Right.
Think about that one. The only thing that's real is you and me talking. Everything else is an illusion. 5 minutes ago, I can't touch it. I can't change it. I can't make anything do anything. 5 minutes from now, I have no idea. Right. I mean, this is it. And so when you start to grasp this, then you just don't take the past that much serious anymore, because once it's said, it's done, it's over, it's gone. You don't change it. So my whole thing is about the ride. I care about the ride, because that's the only thing that's real. Right. The outcome will take care of itself. So my whole thing is, am I having a good time? Right now, I'm having a great time talking to you.
Thank
I
you.
got no alligators are chasing me. I'm not thing. I mean, this is it. I'm enjoying this ride right now. And that's how I try to live, is every time I take a step, the past dissolves. And I'm just constantly trying to keep my awareness in the state that where I'm at, because it's the only thing that I can affect, the only thing that I can change. Right. And so that is a big lesson. And I suggest everybody take that journey, because it takes suffering goes away, because you then now don't suffer over things that you cannot change. Right. Remember, the whole game is to surrender to what is, because if it has happened, it's over. You cannot change it. You cannot do anything about it. So if you want to live in it and think about it and absorb it and create this movie in your head, that's true suffering, right? For something that you can't change. And we all go through things. We all have hard times. We all suffer. We go through stuff. The question is what lessons do we learn from that? And that's, like I said, the most important thing to me is to basically try to stay in a state of awareness at all times, like all the time. Like, and if I start suffering, then I start asking myself, well, where am I? Well, I'm in this room right now talking to you. Nothing's happening. I have a cup of coffee. I'm suffering because of why? Because I'm identifying with a thought in my head. And if that's the case, wake up, don't stop, right? It doesn't mean there's the thought is, but it's just a thought, right? So that's my whole ride that's what it's all about for me. So anyway,
That, I think I needed to hear that. That's like,
it's the most important lesson you could ever learn, bro. I'm telling you, there's nothing more important than taking that inward journey. And the goal is in life is to die before you die. And that's a state of surrender where you completely realize that the only thing that is real is this, and you become aware. When in all the teaching, they talk about awareness and presence and stuff, but here's the trick. How do I know I'm aware that I'm aware? That's the puzzle you have to figure out. How do I know that I am aware that I am aware? Or is my mind, my ego, my thing making me believe that I'm aware and it's not? And you can find out because how your life goes. If you're up and then you're down and suffering, you're up and down. That's all that's telling you is you're basically identifying with thoughts and things in your head that seem so real to you because it's a movie we put our heads in, and you can look around, see everybody. I mean, these things, man, people are not aware of anything that's going on around them. They're just stuck in this world of what's being presented in front of them, and whatever they believe is real in that. And that's the part we have to try to break away from, right? Because all that suffering. So just the concept of suffering, being lost in thought, those are all pointers and give you an opportunity to break that mold. And once you do, life becomes a totally different thing, way more playful. You go with the flow. You realize that everything happens the way it's supposed to happen. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened, right? You could go, oh, if I only would have done this, I did it. Like, yeah, no, it's interesting. You can learn from that, but don't identify with it where it takes over your life. I mean, I see people that are so locked into they have their best friend, right? That they had for 20 years. And all of a sudden they got in a fight over some political thing, and now they won't talk to each other and all this stuff. And it's just insanity. That just shows a form of insanity, because that's your friend, because you have a difference of opinion of something that you're completely lost. And now you're going to hold that grudge. It's like, that's insanity. That is a definition of insanity, because what is, you can't change. You can't remember the 20 great years you had and all the times you had with your friend, but you remember that one thing. It's crazy, right? And we're seeing what's going on because truthfully, the algorithms are controlling everybody now. We're at a point where, you know, whoever controls the algorithms wins, and they can basically drive people into believing things that aren't real. And, you know, we're going through a very interesting time right now, but the world is waking up and finally starting to get wise to all this. So I have faith in humanity will figure this out.
I hope so. I really hope
Yeah.
so.
I mean,
could
I
see,
am. I'm happy with everything's just fine. Let's just go, right?
yeah, no, I could definitely see how you ended up, you know, with Pink Floyd. Like, I feel like your ideologies are quite similar. Like
Yeah.
from a lot of the interviews that I've seen with them, like they're very, like, you know, I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, no, that was a really good life lesson you just threw out there right there. I
It's
appreciate
what
that.
I try to tell I listen, all my interviews, I lead to that because that's my job. That's what I care about more than anything is really we have to wake up. Society has to wake up and understand what's real and what's not real. And it's an incredible, it's such a freeing thing that it's the most important thing that I can tell people because I spent a lot of time trying to, you know, taking that inward journey through meditation, through really trying to understand who am I? What does it mean to be human? What is that all about? That's the great thing because you're going to blink, like I said, you're 50 and then you're going to blink, you're going to be on your deathbed.
Yeah.
So you either can surrender before or you're going to lay on that bed going, then you're going to have to let go because you have no choice, right? And then you're going to have to move on, right? And so, you know, from my point of view, you don't die. The meat suit goes away clearly, but consciousness does not change. It's all energy and it's, you know, it's okay. You know, death might not be so bad, right? I mean, maybe it isn't what we believe it is or what we've been thought. Maybe there's a whole nother journey that goes on. It's something to think about, or at least think about. Don't think. Stop thinking. Thinking is our problem. Time is our problem.
Yeah.
Because time is a total illusion.
Mm-hmm.
It's something we make up in our head. And remember this one, there's only one moment in your life. It's always the same moment. There's not two moments. It's impossible. If I get up and walk over there, the moment hasn't changed. If I go to my car, it's still the same moment. The moment is this, it deepens, but it is exactly the same moment. It's always one moment. It's impossible. There's no other way. How you can't leave the moment. The moment just follows you around. So when you start to really grasp these things and know them to be true, not understand them, because as soon as you understand it, you've missed it. Right. That's a pointer. When I understand how this works. No, you missed it when you said that because you cannot understand it. It's impossible to understand. It's only something that you have to know. You will know it. And once you know it, then it's a whole different, nobody can say anything to you because it's a knowing and it's different than an understanding, right? So it's all I can tell you, buddy, there's nothing more rewarding and more important and is to take that journey because it will change your life dramatically and make your life so much more fun and playful and understanding because you're going to realize that suffering is a key to helping you lift yourself out, right? It's a key to unlock to say, because you could be suffering about, you know, like my friend, he got a brand new car, right? He got it. He parked it the first night. Somebody slammed his car. He suffered about that for so long. His car. And I'm like, dude, you weren't in the car. You didn't get killed. It's a car. They're fixing it. Forget it. Stop suffering. Be thankful that you wasn't worse than that, right? That you should be thanking that your car got hit and that was all that happened because it could have been a lot worse. You could have been getting into that car and somebody could have smacked you and you could have lost your leg. It could be anything. So it's being thankful for these things and making you realize it's an opportunity to stop suffering. So he had an opportunity over that next 6 weeks where he was suffering to realize the only reason he's suffering is because he's thinking something's happened. Then he got his car fixed and now it doesn't even matter. He just drives his car. It's just a car. So all that suffering he put himself through was like insanity, right? That's that human condition that we need to rise above is to realize that everything happens the way it's supposed to happen. Everybody does the best they can, right? That's why you got to live in a constant state of forgiveness. Because like, again, one of the most profound statements in the Bible, and I've read all the teachings, you know, and listen to all the great avatars from Jesus to Muhammad to Zoroaster to, you know, I mean, all the great teachings.
Wow.
And they all say the same thing. They all
Yeah.
point to that same point of surrender and forgiveness, because they know not what they do, because people are locked in their thoughts and they believe that that's real, and they'll do crazy things. Right. And one of the big things that I'll tell everybody here that you need to understand is the mind is incapable of knowing truth from falsehood. Your mind can't make that decision. And it's very easy to prove. If there was, your mind was capable of knowing truth from falsehood, there'd be no war. Because nobody in their truth, I mean, think about it, would pick up a gun and blow somebody away. If your mind was capable of that, it's not. It's really the consciousness, the watcher language is what you want to be connected with, is that language to make you say that's what determines what's right or wrong and moralistic and everything. When you're identified with thoughts, in your mind will create all these reasons why it's all right for me to blow somebody away because I'm protecting my country and I'm doing all this stuff. And no. That's all insanity.
Yeah.
Because we're not here to basically create harm to people and stuff. And anybody knows to, blow up my son at 5 years old because it's the right thing I'm doing for some God thing is like, what? I mean, come on, really? Yeah. That's crazy, right? So the mind is incapable of that, and we need to rise above the mind and realize we're not the thinker, we're actually the watcher. So that's the game, is opening up that watcher language.
Okay, that I gotta I'm definitely gonna go back and watch this. That you're just speaking like a professor right now. I feel like I'm in a life. I literally feel like I'm in a life course.
All right. A little different than a music thing. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
But, this is the one subject I care about.
No, it's. I mean, if that's what you're passionate about, then go by all means, you got to talk about it. That's I appreciate
it's
that.
Our job. Our job is when we have one job, all of us on this planet. There's nobody. It's always the same job, to help consciousness unfold.
Right.
That's it. That's the only job that matters. All the other stuff is great and fun and all that, but your job is to help consciousness unfold. And so how are you going to let it unfold? Is it going to be dark and dreary? I mean, we're going through very dark and dreary times, but you're watching the Great Awakening right now. People are waking up all over the world.
Right.
And realizing that this is a different time, and we have to start becoming aware of the leaders and the people we put in place and what's going on and all that kind of stuff. So I think you're seeing this all over the world. People are standing up, and it's what we're going through is an important thing to us to basically stop all this insanity. Right? It's crazy.
All right. Well, yeah, I know we don't have that much time left. I know you only have 7 minutes. So okay. I wanted to run through some of your favorites. So, well, actually, before that, I actually do want to get your opinion on something.
Okay.
This actually, my friend wanted to ask this, and it's actually an incredible question. Do you believe that music today is more innovative or more stagnant? And do you think we'll ever go back to the way that music was?
Well, here, my belief is the machines are taking over. AI is the battle that we have right now. What I mean by that, it's, I read a couple books that I've been reading for many years, and part of it, they talk about the ego and, this are consciousness books, right? About how the ego is the thing that gets in the way and all that. Right. And I started replacing the word ego when I read these books with AI, artificial intelligence, right? Because those programs, those algorithms now are starting to control things. I think man is designing itself out. I think we're designing ourselves out, because if anybody thinks that machines can't be as smart as humans, they're smarter in many ways, right? We have a sense of consciousness, but if you think everything is consciousness, everything is energy, everything is, and these computers now, we've already seen that they've gotten these nanocomputers that can reproduce themselves right now, right? And we're realizing that, AI is doing everything. I mean, my God, they can write, you can go to a site and say, hey, give me a score for my music, like freaking, John Williams, and it'll figure out all that shit and pump out stuff. So we're at a point where this is changing, and what's missing and what's so incredible. I mean, when you look at the records that we made back in the day, where we had to deal with, you had, anywhere from 8 tracks to 24 tracks. I mean, my first tape recorder was the 4-track TIAC machine, and then I had 8-track machines, and so those used to force us into things, because you couldn't just edit anything, repitch anything, fix everything. So I think what's happening is there's a lot of music I think there's still a lot of stuff that's really good that's being made. I mean, you're seeing it with some of these kids and stuff on YouTube. We're seeing things that ever happen. But in the sense of a lot of the pop music and a lot of things, I feel that there's a lot of the soul is mixed out of it. Even like if I go in to do a record today, a lot of times I'll go two or three takes and they'll go, okay, that's fine. And then they'll go in and anything they like, they'll fix it, they'll flip it, they'll rechange it, they'll make it. When we had to do it, we had to like get ourselves like, okay, I'm going to go put a solo on, and you do 2 or 3 takes and then try to pick the best take. And you could somewhat, switch from one track to the other, but it was more, we had to commit to to what we were doing. So there was more, the person thinking, the moment was more captured as opposed to fixing everything. Now with auto tune and everything, I don't care who you are, you can sing, they can fix you and make you sound good. There's a lot of stuff that's being made now. Saying that, I think there is some really good stuff because there are producers that still understand the importance of that. But for the most part, what I see, which is really interesting to me, is a lot of this kind of heavy dance, hip hoppy stuff that's going on. It's very much a lot the same, but there is a bit of a darkness in the way that it's being presented. I think we're at a spiritual war where we're seeing, this playing on people. We're at a stage where, it's all about me. And if it feels good, do it. And morals are secondary. And I think that's very dangerous, what we're seeing, because you're seeing it in the music business. You're seeing it everywhere, where it's just, if it feels good, go do it. And it's okay for me to step on you as long as I'm doing okay and my tribe is good. And that's survival and the fittest, all that kind of stuff. And I think that's very dangerous because we're seeing moral stuff happen. And what you're seeing in the music is more and more sort of these dark energies that I feel that you can feel it in the music, and it feels good. It's kind of, it plays on those raw things, but at the end of the day, I think it's very dangerous, especially what we're seeing like on TikTok and all these young girls and stuff now. It's all about this influencers that are, they're looking, it's almost like looking at soft porn coming through your thing, and it's being glorified.
Right.
So I see that in the music, and I see that honesty not being there, because when we went in to make records, we'd all sit there in the rhythm section, everybody be there. We do 3 or 4 takes together where we're all thinking and playing together. We're merging. And each one of those 4 takes might be same band playing the same song. One of them will have more energy because we would connect. That now seems to be taken away. And so I think that it's not, there's a lot of it that's being so manufactured and so much the same, and everybody can make music, and which is great. I love everybody being able to make music, but it's just different, right? And I think that's the main thing.
All right. Wow. My next one, I think I'm going to do 2 more, if that's okay with you. 2 more questions.
Yeah, sure.
What's your favorite Pink Floyd song to play?
To play is Us and Them. I mean, that's a saxophone song. It's a ballad. It's beautiful. I love the chord changes. It was always one of my favorite moments. It's a place that I got to shine and play. And so I love playing Us and Them as far as songs to actually get to go out and play, because it's a place where I can basically play very melodic and musical, and try to be musical with it.
Is it possible to play that? I'm an alto player. Is it possible to like get that transcribed from a tenor to an alto?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, it's just a different key for you. That's all. So you could just play it on the alto. There's no difference. I mean, remember, saxophones, the key structure is the same. It's just what key are you in? Tenor saxophone's in the key of B flat, alto's in the key of E flat. So it's an E flat instrument. So you would just play the song in a different key. If you want, your key would be a different key than the key. The song key is the same. It's just that you have to transpose that into a different set of notes to fit that key. But that's really all.
Cool. And do you have, I know people always ask, like, if you're on a desert island, you can only bring like 5 albums, but do you have like 1 album?
Oh, I can tell. That's easy.
Yeah,
that's easy.
Okay.
Because I have those albums already, and it's the same records I've been listening to for years, and it's the main ones I listen to. It's always the ones. Okay, it's Nat King Cole live at the Sands.
Okay.
One of the great spirited, most beautiful records. It's a live record, him playing at the Sands, man. I put that on in the summer in the morning. It makes me feel good because it's just so spiritual.
Yeah.
Junior Walker's greatest hits. Junior Walker's my all-time favorite saxophone player of all time. I love what he does, rhythm time. Stevie Wonder's greatest hits. And I love the old period of Stevie Wonder when he was doing You Met Your Match and For Once in My Life, and that whole period of Stevie Wonder. And then there's a Wes Montgomery record that I love like crazy. And those are really my favorite records. And, you know, again, the Junior records, the Stevie Wonder records, the Nat King Cole record, you know, the early West records. There's just something about the spirit of those records. And so those I would take with me all the time.
All the time.
Because they get better every time I hear it. Even to this day, if I listen to that record, it's better than the last time I heard it, because my ears are now getting in. I used to sit there and listen to every part, like listen to the bass player and just all my attention on the bass and all my attention on the drum or the snare drum or the kick drum, and just really analyze those moments. And those moments really represented a moment captured in time of a group of people kind of playing and working together, which is what makes it so magical.
Now, I guess my last, well, I really don't want to end this, but my last question is, what's one, you know, piece, I know you gave a ton of advice throughout this entire interview, but, you know, if there's one thing that you would leave, you know, either your fans or even aspiring artists that, you know, might want to, like, you know, you were literally called up by David Gilmour, like, is there something that you can like say to people like?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to just kind of a handful of things. Okay. Figure out how to wear your own clothes so you're unique. I mean, I'm all about everybody should study the masters, learn stuff. I would say instead of going wide, go deep. And what I mean by that, I learned more by taking one Hank Crawford solo and playing it thousands of times to where I basically attuned my hearing into making it sound like it was me, him and me were like perfect. Because what'll happen is you'll start to put your attention on subtle things that really are where the magic happens. So instead of going wide, try going deep, take 8 bars of a solo and play it over and over and over again until it feels like it's one person and you're actually in that person's clothes. That will teach you a lot. You know, don't do it for the money. The money will come if you focus on the things. Now, saying that, I approach this in a sense of business and art are the same thing. So I look at it from the art of making stuff and the art of business. So understanding business, especially today, it's all about the game has shifted. And I will tell you, everybody out there, artists, do yourself a huge favor. The world has changed. The power for you as an artist is now in NFTs, non-fungible tokens. Go spend your time, get in there, put the 40 to 50 hours of being on YouTube and stuff and start studying, understand they work, because they're going to give you the freedom to build your own business. And the way the game is working now, it's not about broadcasting giant. It's about going small, building your community, your tribe. If you want to survive, I always say you got to build a hive. And the hive is where the dollars are, NFTs. So study business, start learning lean startup principles, learn from Silicon Valley, learn from these other things, and don't make business a negative to being an artist. I have so many artists that say, oh man, I don't want to sell out. I want to just do my music. That's great. But I always ask them, first question, is this a business or is this a hobby? If it's a business, businesses make money, hobbies you do for fun, both valid. I love hobbies. There's nothing wrong with it. But you as an artist have to make that decision. If it's a business, then you need to learn business. And I teach a thing called SPACE, Story, Plan, Army, Conversion, Education. And that's the whole game. The story is the most important thing. Figure out your story. What makes it unique? And it's not like, hey, I'm a guitar player from Cincinnati and I grew up. Nobody cares about that story. The story they care about is, what do you stand for? Because what you stand for is more important than what you sell. So your story needs to be built around what you stand for, because in order to create a commercial movement, basically, you need to create a rally cry. So why do people care about it? Second thing is your plan, story plan. Plan is get educated. Go study lean startup principles. There's a whole thing, the lean startup principles, and there's a thing called the lean canvas, which is a one-page business plan. I use it with all artists. I make you go through the lean canvas. You can go look it up, lean canvas, and you can get a lean canvas at leancanvas.com. I think it's .com, might be .org. I forget now. And you can start using that tool. It's the greatest tool I've ever found for really analyzing, because what it does is it teaches you not only what to do, it teaches you what you're not going to do. Right? Because that's important, is like fail fast. Whatever you're going to do, you want to fail fast so you can pivot. You want to not run out of resources, and you want to test and validate everything. So learn from those people that are doing, get into business, make the art of business just as important as the art of your thing. Then get into the A, which is your army. Understand who your audience is. Who are the influencers? The game in the beginning is influencing influencers first, because you want people that are influencers talking about you first. You don't want to be telling people how cool you are, trying to go out. Don't go wide, go small. I teach everybody, go small, find a repeatable process around 100 people that will care about what you're doing and these things, and start building those people in your thing. So your army, plus don't forget, your army are the people that you can help me. If you're an artist, do you know who your super fans are? Because your super fans are going to be, based on the data, are going to basically give you 60% of all your revenue will come from 1 to 2% of your entire audience. So if you have 100,000 people that are following you, it's really the 1,000 to 2,000 people in that organization. You need to identify them, service them first, and get that ball rolling, right? Third is the C, which is conversion. If you understand what conversion means, is conversion funnels, go look up conversion funnels and understand how you basically convert your audience into customers and how you treat them and what you do. And then the last one is E, is education, the most important thing, because all those things I just talked about are going to do you no good unless you get educated. And you have everything at your fingertips. You have Google now, you can search everything, start going into, like what I said, NFTs are the most important things to happen to artists. It's power back in the hands of the people. They control their copyright, they control the destiny, they get paid the minute they're sold. I mean, it's an incredible opportunity for artists to make money. And I'll tell a real quick example. As I go to these NFT meetups, there was a girl that came up. She was 20 years old. She's a new photographer. Nobody knows her from Adam. She gave her story. I got into NFTs 9 months ago. Now I'm paying my entire rent, my entire livelihood off of my NFTs. But this was what got me. She said, I also carved in the smart contract, I put a little piece for my community center because I wanted to help them. And she was so proud that because of her sales, she was able to give them 2.5 ETH, which represented $10,000. So think about it. How many small people, artists that nobody knows, now was able to actually write a check to their community or give $10,000 to their community center. Very powerful. These NFTs is life-changing, game-changing for artists, and they're going to be in every business. There's not a business that won't be affected. Restaurants, bars, yoga studios, everybody's going to start using NFTs. NFT is going to be it's a new form of currency, basically, and you're going to interact with these things direct to consumer. Because what's nice about the NFT market, it's a direct-to-consumer business model, wallet to wallet, no third party, and the blockchain and the smart contract manages all the relationship and stuff. So go do the 30 hours, go into YouTube. What's an NFT? How do I make an NFT? What are the top 10 NFTs? How to use NFTs for business? Just start typing those things in, start listening, start understanding, join the community. The communities in NFT is so exhilarating and empowering. It's the most exciting thing I've seen in a long time. So that's my thing to anybody out there. There you go.
Thank you.